I don't know if you'll believe me, but I swear, what happened to me that night in Briar Hollow was real. I still have trouble even talking about it. I'd been living in the city for a while, so when my aunt called and said she was sick, I figured it was time to get out of the noise and visit. Briar Hollow is a tiny village in the middle of nowhere, tucked between cornfields and old pine forests. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone else, where the houses all look the same, and the streetlights flicker on and off like something's wrong with them. It's the kind of place where you can't get away from the past, and where the past doesn't want to leave you alone. When I got there, Aunt Martha was quiet, not the usual chatterbox she used to be, always telling me stories about the town's history, how it was founded, the old mines nearby, the strange disappearances from years ago. She seemed to have lost her energy. It was almost as if something was weighing her down. Still, she insisted I stay for a few days, so I did. The first night, I went for a walk to stretch my legs. Briar Hollow's streets are empty after dark, except for a few houses with lights on and the town square, which always feels like it's waiting for something. When I passed by the church at the edge of town, I saw something I shouldn't have. A group of people, all dressed in black, standing in a circle near the cemetery. At first, I thought it was just a late-night gathering, but something felt off. They weren't talking, just standing there, facing inward. I'd lived in small towns before, so I knew people could be strange, but there was something about the stillness of those people, the way they never even acknowledged my presence. It was like I wasn't supposed to be there. I kept walking, hoping to shake off the unease, but when I passed the old gas station on the corner, I heard it, a voice, low, almost a whisper, coming from the woods behind the station. It sounded like someone calling my name, soft and slow, like a lullaby. I turned back, half expecting to see someone standing there, but there was nothing. The woods were as quiet as the rest of the town, the trees barely rustling. I told myself it was just the wind, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching me. The next morning, Aunt Martha seemed more like herself, but still distant. She made me breakfast, and we talked about old memories from when I was a kid. Then she started talking about the hollowing. People don't talk about it much anymore, she said, but you'll feel it. It's part of Briar Hollow. It's always been here. At first, I thought she was just rambling, but she was serious. She explained that the town had a history of strange disappearances, people who'd vanished without a trace all around the same time during the autumn. It wasn't something they discussed in public, but everyone knew about it. The hollowing, she called it. A curse or a dark tradition no one really knew. She told me to stay inside at night. That evening, I went for another walk, feeling unsettled. This time, I kept away from the church and the cemetery, sticking to the quieter side of town near the fields. But when I passed the old mill, something strange caught my eye. Shadows moving in the window. I thought maybe it was just the wind, or maybe someone inside. But when I peered closer, I saw them. They weren't people. They were shapes, silhouettes that seemed too tall, too thin, like they were stretching and twisting unnaturally. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine, and I turned to leave. But as I did, I heard footsteps behind me. Someone was walking close, too close. My heart pounded in my chest, and I turned around, but there was no one there, only the sound of crunching leaves beneath invisible feet. I ran back to Aunt Martha's house, my breath ragged. I slammed the door behind me and locked it. But that night, the worst thing happened. I woke up around 2 a.m., the room cold despite the heater running. The house was silent, except for a low, almost inaudible hum coming from outside. It wasn't wind, it wasn't the trees. It was more like a low chant, a wordless song that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Then, a tapping at the window. I froze. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The tapping grew louder. It wasn't random. It was a rhythm, deliberate, like someone was trying to get my attention. I couldn't see who or what was outside, but I could feel it. Something was there. Something was waiting. I stayed in that room all night, too terrified to make a sound. The tapping stopped only when the first light of dawn filtered through the curtains. The next morning, I packed my bags. Aunt Martha didn't even try to stop me. She knew I wouldn't stay. She knew that the hollowing was always waiting, ready to claim anyone who didn't belong. Before I left, she whispered, "You were never meant to come back here. Briar Hollow doesn't let go." And just as I was about to leave, caught sight of something. In the distance, near the cemetery, the same group of people from the night before stood in a circle. This time, they were facing the road, and I swear, one of them was looking directly at me. Haven't been back to Briar Hollow since, but every time I close my eyes, I still hear that chant, the hollow voices, and the tapping. There are places in this world I've learned that can take hold of you. Briar Hollow is one of them.